Okay, this video is very important. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, so this video is very important. Keep in mind they're changing my voice, the sound of my voice, that is. I urge you to pay close attention here. This is about the shooting in Oklahoma. Now, these shootings are to distract you from something. And they like to put words there as some kind of sick joke, right? It's very popular these days for people to kind of emulate the Joker, the Jigsaw, etc. as their criminals. If you look at the street gangs, if you look at the biker gangs, Harley Quinn is like a biker gang chick. That's the theme of it. And so in the comic books, you have the character Jigsaw and the character Riddler. Okay, and we see in Proverbs in the Bible, it talks about the riddles, the parables, and the sayings of the wise. So these mass shootings, absolutely, they connect to the churches, the corporations, what have you. To put it in a nutshell, for those of you who struggle understanding why there must be a large concerted effort to cause these things to occur, think of them in terms of colonialism. Or when the colonists came, the churches, the businesses, the military, they worked together in concert to control people, to coerce women into bed, and to kind of social engineer. That's why you have, social clubs and secret societies like the Pilgrim Society. What is the theme of a group called the Pilgrim Society or the Club of Rome? The theme is to control things. The Romans worked together, right? The guilds, the craftsmen, the local gangs, the senators, their network, the businessmen, the churches, the cults, they worked together to control people all throughout Roman history. And later on, after they established the churches, right, the churches joined them. And they've been working together with the governments to this day. If you look at the history of confessionalism, in various areas, people had to confess a faith in the local Christian denomination, or else they would be harassed and persecuted by the government, which included the churches. That practice has not changed very much. If you look at political parties, there's factions of churches. They just made it a little more confusing by doing it in terms of factions, right? There's liberal factions of the Catholic Church, there's Republican factions, and they work together, right? It's a left-right paradigm in the churches, just like in society. Now, what does this have to do with the shooting, right? Well, the shooting took place on a campground by Arcadia Lake. And this has everything to do with the word Obviate. Obviate is a play on words for Obi Vie 8. Now, who was Apep, the snake deity that's talked about in the Bible? Leviathan, Apep. Okay, it was a deity of chaos. And that chaos came in the form of people who were foreign to the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. Moses learned the ways of the Egyptians. Joseph learned the ways of the Egyptians. Abraham went to Egypt with his wife Sarah. And Jesus hid in Egypt as well. I've come across in my research that the word Egypt is in the Bible more than the word Israel. It's a very significant term here. Now, so what is occurring in the world today? There's these mass shootings, right? It's a mass of people, right? Baal Hamana, Baal of the horde. And the word Hamana has the word Ham scrambled into it, just like Abraham. So things are relative to the Royal African Falcon Martial Art. Now, how do I know? Well, first of all, you have to look at it historically, right? Objective facts, science, logic, rational thinking. Not some kind of church speculation, not some stupid cult speculation, some radical leftist speculation, some white supremacist right-wing speculation. No, you have to look at it in terms of objective facts. What was going on during the time of the Jews in the Middle East, right? In the Old Testament, later on, when the Christians started emerging in Rome and in Ethiopia, so on and so forth, where there were a bunch of people who were comparing their religions and they were trading goods, right? The mark of the beast. You can't buy or sell unless you accept the mark of the beast, right? Which is outrageous. The people enforcing that are idiots. Okay, why is that? Because it has to do with cults and cultivation, right? What you're cultivating. So you have all these right-wing people and all these left-wing people on your bumper trying to make sure that you see it their way, that you look up to people their way, and that you date their way, right? Rhyme and reason. Rate, late, fate, date, mate, hate. So date and hate. Why do they hate people so much? Now, it's more than just attractive females, right? If you look at things in terms of high school groups and how people turn out after that. You see the jocks and rockers, and back in the day they had a lot of emos, rap fans, nerds, populars, good-ats, floaters. They all come out to be sort of gold diggers, erotic desire people, which goes back to the cult of the emperor, which is probably best stated as the cult of the state, which is the Antichrist, right? It's those who want to obey God versus those who obey the state who are persecuting them. Because of those who persecute people who are Christians historically, the state was the bell that rings the loudest, right? The Romans, the Egyptians, okay, the confessionalism, right? The Reformation, the Counter-Reformation, what have you. Tends to be the state. The state turning a blind eye to it, like in Nigeria, it tends to be the state. Because they're concerned with your state of mind and your state of being. So when we look at these mass shootings like in Oklahoma, it is the state turning a blind eye on the social engineering process that is about purging people who think a certain way. And they're not necessarily the people being shot. Okay, that's part of the confusion, right? Set and Baal were the main opposition to God in the Bible, are deities of confusion. And we know that has to do with Egypt because of Job 38, I believe it is. It brings up the ibis, which is a symbol of Tot. And it connects it to the things that the Egyptians connected it to, right? That ibis bird. And they bring up the hawk, which is a symbol of horse. And they connect it to the wisdom, and justice and righteousness like the Egyptians did, right? And martial arts, martial wisdom. Right? As you connect the different scriptures about wisdom. Proverbs 8, for example, wisdom walks in the way of righteousness along the paths of justice, and Horus is a deity of justice. Which one? A pagan definition or a monotheistic, morally precise definition of the Son of God, which puts it as at Horus and Jesus are the same in their true forms, is the top martial artist, heavenly warrior, defeats the beast, Son of God. Okay. So, as we look at this system and we see how stupid it is, right? So look at their attractive female contrast game, for example, and it blowing up in their face. Is a trophy wife something that exists anymore? No, not really. Why? Because point number one, everyone knows that attractive females almost always have the worst dating judgment of all types. Unattractive, mediocre, average, okay, males, what have you. Attractive females are known as having the worst dating judgment. We'll get to that in a second here. Point number two, everyone knows that the social, political, and economic system is rigged. Point number three, gold digger pranks on YouTube get many views. That's part of why they're known as having the worst dating judgment, right? They say, she's a dumb hoe, she's a dumb bitch. How often do people say that compared to saying someone's a dumb asshole? Excuse my French here. So the gold digger pranks, right? How often is a guy played out for being a gold digger? Or for liking attractive females? Because, if you're healthy, you're more likely to be attractive, and that's nature, versus being some kind of gold digging punk. Point number four, everyone knows that there are frats, social clubs, gangs, mentors, corporations, and more that are helping people get females. So if the game is rigged into next week, is she a trophy wife? No. But yet you have a consumer society where they say females and money make the world go round. Blood money and fair weather gold diggers, as I've proven before with the groups in high school and their trajectory. The state guides them every step of the way. Even the word school is the word look scrambled with a CH instead of a K. And do people do things based on looks? Or do we actually have a fair and square meritocracy where generational sabotage is considered? And obstacles and disadvantages are considered? No. We have a looks-based system. We have a system where they say it's not what you know, it's who you know and who you blow. Going back to attractive females having bad judgment, and they're notorious for that bad judgment. Point number five, people tend to hate thieves, like people who steal money from homeless programs, for example. So they hate the fact that guys get over when it comes to females and say things like, tally ho. They're tallying what? A trick ass B word, right? She's tricked. A hooker, she's hooked on a stupid path, hook, line, and sinker, and she goes down to hell dating some scoundrel, walking in the way of wickedness on the paths of injustice. Point number six, people don't like to be treated like complete idiots who don't see through what they're doing. Point number seven, when females look dumb, their parents look dumb. Point number eight, White, Jewish, and LGBT cultures are the dominant cultures in our society, and they're clearly to blame. So do they have a trophy wife, or do they have a symbol of complete stupidity, a lack of basic decency, when in their own language, ver in virtue means man, right? Most, Western languages are, not all of them are Latin rooted. Say most of them. Point number 9. When people ruin women, they ruin marriages and families.